start talking at home. Alex understood English perfectly. He could follow movies, read articles, and comprehend conversations with ease. Yet, when it came to speaking, a heavy curtain of shyness descended. His words often felt stuck, trapped somewhere between his brain and his tongue. This frustrating gap between understanding and articulation plagued him constantly, hindering his progress. The realization dawned one evening: passive understanding wasn't enough. He needed to activate his knowledge. The first, crucial step, he decided, was to start talking at home. No pressure, no judgment, just a safe space to practice. He vowed to speak English to himself, to his plants, even to his reflection, breaking the silence. He began observing how people speak English more keenly. Not just native speakers, but also non-natives who conversed fluently. He noticed their intonation, their common phrases, and how they structured sentences naturally. It wasn't about perfect grammar initially, but about effective communication and rhythm. Alex dedicated time daily to listen and practice. He'd listen to podcasts, then try to repeat sentences, mimicking the accent and speed. Sometimes, he'd pause a dialogue and attempt to predict the next line, then compare his guess with the actual script. This active engagement transformed passive listening. He soon understood why you must listen actively. Listening provided an invaluable blueprint for natural conversation. It taught him idiomatic expressions, correct stress patterns, and the rhythm of English that textbooks often missed. Without continuous input, his output would remain stilted and unnatural, lacking authenticity. Beyond listening, why reading is so important became evident. Reading exposed him to diverse vocabulary and complex sentence structures in a structured way. He read news articles, short stories, and even simple novels. This practice expanded his lexicon and reinforced grammatical patterns implicitly, without rote memorization. To build confidence, he sought out opportunities for how to speak with people. Initially, it was online language exchange partners. These interactions, though sometimes awkward, were vital. He learned to initiate conversations, ask clarifying questions, and keep the dialogue flowing, even with limited vocabulary. How make confidence in speaking wasn't an overnight phenomenon. It grew incrementally. Each successful interaction, no matter how small, fueled his self-assurance. He learned to embrace mistakes as learning opportunities, not failures. The fear of sounding imperfect slowly receded, replaced by a willingness to try. He learned how to talk in English by focusing on communication over perfection. Simple sentences, clear pronunciation, and conveying meaning became his priorities. He started with familiar topics, then gradually branched out. The key was consistency and not waiting for perfect fluency to begin speaking. Alex's journey wasn't linear. There were days of frustration and self-doubt. Yet, the small, consistent steps he took daily started accumulating. He recorded his voice, listened back, and identified areas for improvement. This self-assessment was a powerful tool in his learning arsenal. He discovered that engaging in daily conversations, even brief ones, significantly boosted his retention. He started narrating his day in English, silently at first, then eventually out loud. This internal monologue became a form of continuous practice, solidifying new vocabulary and phrases. The fear of making mistakes was his biggest hurdle initially. He realized that everyone, even native speakers, makes mistakes. The goal wasn't flawlessness, but effective communication. This shift in mindset liberated him from the paralysis of perfectionism, allowing him to truly express himself. He consciously tried to mimic common conversational fillers and expressions, like, you know, right, or absolutely. These small additions made his speech sound more natural and less robotic, easing the flow of his sentences and making him sound more like a native. Regular exposure to different accents and speaking speeds through varied listening materials was crucial. He watched interviews, documentaries, and even some talk shows. This diverse input prepared him for real-life conversations where accents varied widely, enhancing his comprehension skills. He used flashcards and language learning apps to reinforce vocabulary learned from reading and listening. But instead of just memorizing words, he focused on using them in complete sentences. This active recall helped embed the words into his productive vocabulary, not just passive recognition. Role-playing scenarios, either alone or with a practice partner, proved incredibly useful. He'd imagine common situations, ordering food, asking for directions, giving an opinion, and rehearse his responses. This preparation reduced anxiety in actual interactions, making him feel more prepared. Alex understood that learning English was a marathon, not a sprint. He celebrated small victories, successfully ordering coffee in English, understanding a complex news report, or holding a 10-minute conversation without resorting to his native language. These milestones kept him motivated. He learned to pay attention to body language and nonverbal cues when speaking with others. These elements contribute significantly to communication, often conveying as much meaning as the words themselves. Understanding them helped him interpret others better and express himself more clearly. He joined an online English speaking club. This group provided a supportive environment where members encouraged each other. The shared experience of struggling and improving together fostered a sense of community, making the learning process less isolating and more enjoyable. Giving short presentations, even just to himself, helped build his public speaking confidence. He would pick a topic, research it, and then explain it aloud in English. This practice improved his ability to organize thoughts and articulate them coherently under pressure. Alex discovered the power of consistent self-correction. After a conversation, he'd reflect on what went well and what could be improved. He'd identify new words he wanted to learn or grammatical structures he struggled with, adding them to his practice list. He leveraged technology to his advantage. Voice recorders, translation apps with pronunciation features, and online dictionaries became indispensable tools. He used them to check his pronunciation, find the right word, and understand nuances of meaning, speeding up his progress. He started incorporating English into his daily routine beyond dedicated study time. Thinking in English, even just planning his day, gradually made the language feel more natural and integrated into his cognitive processes, bridging the gap between passive and active usage. Understanding the cultural context of English phrases and idioms was another step he embraced. He realized that direct translation often failed to convey meaning. Learning about common cultural references enriched his understanding and made his conversations more nuanced. Alex also learned the importance of active listening when others spoke. This meant not just hearing words, but understanding the speaker's intent and emotion. This skill not only improved his comprehension but also allowed him to respond more appropriately and empathetically. He challenged himself to speak on topics he wasn't entirely familiar with. This pushed him out of his comfort zone, forcing him to think on his feet and use circumlocution when he didn't know the exact word, which is a valuable real-life skill. The process of making confidence in speaking was not about eliminating fear, but about acting despite it. Each time he pushed past his hesitation and spoke, he built a stronger internal belief in his own abilities. This resilience was key. He found that storytelling in English, even simple anecdotes, was a great way to practice fluency. It required connecting ideas, using descriptive language, and maintaining a narrative flow, all essential components of engaging conversation. Alex embraced the idea that learning a language is a lifelong journey. There would always be new words, new expressions, and new nuances to discover. This mindset removed the pressure of reaching a mythical, perfect level and encouraged continuous learning. He made a conscious effort to expand his vocabulary beyond basic survival words. He learned synonyms, antonyms, and collocations, which are words that often go together. This rich vocabulary allowed him to express himself with greater precision and variety. Getting feedback from native speakers or advanced learners was incredibly helpful. He wasn't afraid to ask, "Did that make sense?" or "How would you say that naturally?" Constructive criticism provided clear pathways for improvement. Alex practiced summarizing information in English after reading articles or watching videos. This skill is vital for effective communication, as it forces one to distill key points and express them concisely in their own words, demonstrating comprehension. He learned that effective communication isn't just about speaking, but also about asking good questions. Open-ended questions encouraged longer responses from others, giving him more listening practice and opportunities to extend conversations. To start talking at home, he used everyday objects as prompts. He described his room, his clothes, or what he was cooking. This simple exercise made English part of his immediate environment and reduced the intimidation factor of formal practice. He realized that observing how people speak English online, through YouTube videos or interviews, was just as valuable as real-life observation. He focused on native speakers' natural speech patterns, not just perfect pronunciation. He varied his listen and practice routines to prevent boredom. Sometimes it was listening to music and analyzing lyrics, other times it was news reports, or even children's stories for simpler language and clear articulation. Why you must listen became clear in its ability to internalize grammar structures without explicit study. By hearing correct English repeatedly, his brain naturally started to recognize and produce grammatically sound sentences. 4. Why reading is so important. He started reading aloud. This combined the visual input of reading with the physical act of speaking, reinforcing pronunciation and helping him articulate words more smoothly and confidently. When learning how to speak with people, he focused on being an active participant. He didn't wait to be spoken to, he initiated greetings, offered opinions, and asked follow-up questions, showing genuine interest in the conversation. How make confidence in speaking was greatly aided by positive self-talk. Instead of dwelling on mistakes, he focused on his progress and the effort he was making. Celebrating small wins was crucial for sustained motivation. To effectively, how to talk in English, he focused on linking words and phrases naturally. This made his speech flow more smoothly, reducing the choppy, word-by-word delivery that often characterizes beginner speakers. He made a habit of reflecting on his conversations. After talking with someone, he'd mentally replay parts of the discussion, noting any parts where he struggled or where he could have expressed himself more clearly. Alex also understood the power of repetition. He would reread articles, re-listen to podcasts, and re-practice phrases until they felt completely natural and easy to recall when he needed them in a real conversation. He realized that improving his English wasn't solely about grammar and vocabulary, but also about developing a speaker's mindset, being brave, taking risks, and being comfortable with imperfect communication as part of the process. He actively sought opportunities to use English in his daily life, even if it was just reading product labels, following English recipes, or writing grocery lists in English. This immersion made the language less academic and more practical. Start Talking at Home evolved from just talking to himself to having actual mini conversations with supportive family members who were also learning, creating a microenvironment for practical application. He found that observing how people speak English in different contexts, like a formal interview versus a casual chat, helped him understand, register, and choose appropriate language for various situations. His listen and practice routine included shadowing, where he would speak simultaneously with an audio recording, trying to match the pace, rhythm, and intonation. This technique significantly improved his fluidity. Why You Must Listen was also about developing an ear for connected speech, where words blend together. This skill is vital for understanding fast, natural conversation, reducing the feeling of words being mumbled. Why reading is so important extended to reading things that genuinely interested him, not just textbooks. This made the process enjoyable and sustainable, as he was motivated by content rather than just obligation. How to speak with people became less daunting as he focused on reciprocal communication. He learned to listen intently to others, which in turn helped him formulate more relevant and engaging responses. How Make Confidence in Speaking was ultimately about accepting imperfection. He realized that fluency wasn't about never making mistakes, but about the ability to communicate effectively despite them, and to recover gracefully. His approach to how to talk in English became more strategic. He'd pre-think common phrases for specific situations and mentally rehearse them, reducing on-the-spot cognitive load and enabling smoother delivery. Alex's journey from silent comprehension to confident articulation was a testament to consistent effort and a structured approach. He proved that understanding is merely the first step. Active speaking unlocks true fluency. He became an advocate for starting small, using home as a sanctuary for initial practice. This low-stakes environment fostered growth without the pressure of public scrutiny, which can often paralyze learners. The transformation was remarkable. Alex, once hesitant, now engaged in lively discussions, shared his opinions, and even delivered short presentations. His English wasn't perfect, but it was confident and effective. His experience solidified the belief that anyone can overcome the speaking barrier if they commit to regular practice, especially focusing on listening and active production from the very beginning. He no longer feared the language. Instead, he embraced it as a tool for connection and personal growth. The journey from "I understand but I can't speak well" to confident communication was truly empowering. Alex's story serves as an inspiring reminder that consistent effort, strategic practice, and a positive mindset are the true keys to unlocking fluency and making confidence in speaking English a tangible reality.